What is up, people of the internet? It is me, Real American Politics, back with hopefully the very final, no BS about it, the final redistricting video of the 2022 cycle. There's been a lot of stuff happening this entire cycle, so I think it's time that we do a general overview of how redistricting went for both parties, because there's been a lot of misconception around what the Democrats gained over 15 seats in the House. It's over for the GQP and garbage like that. I'm here to say that redistricting, while not the best for Republicans, still went better than expected. Now, again, I'm not saying it went perfectly. The Republicans did lose a net loss of like 2 seats. But that is misleading. This net gain of 12 seats by the Democrats, that's misleading as all hell. Absolutely misleading. It's BS how they calculate this stuff, and yeah. So before I forget, I hope you enjoy these type of videos. If you do, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit the little bell, and yes. So, we gotta talk about the absolute failures of redistricting and why we do need actual redistricting form, not in the way that the Democrats want to have a fair and safe democracy, as in these garbage maps like in Illinois. These are the districts, the Democrats and leftists all want. These line districts. Oh, they match the exact proportionality of the state of Illinois. This map is fair. BS. This is the type of maps that I do agree we need to fix redistricting, but in the way that, hey, you have to be as compact as possible. You can't just do this stuff. Like, okay, the old map had some issues, but, you go down here, Illinois 15th, Illinois 12th, Illinois 13th even, had some issues, but, relatively speaking, a fairish map, considering the fact that Illinois. This map, though, why? These districts do not have to look like this at all. They're not compact. They're just disgusting lines, like, drawn all over the place. I mean, go down here. What is this? What is this? Seriously? Like, you made this district, which was disgusting beforehand, way worse. I mean, they should have just kept going. They should have just kept going to Indiana at this point. These are the type of maps, though, the Republicans did lose a couple seats on. They did lose roughly 2 Republican seats, all right? And Democrats did get a net gain of 2, mostly because, there's 1 less seat here. But here's the thing, though. Do you really think some of these districts, like Illinois 6, do you really think that Democrats are going to be able to exactly hold these type of seats? This is a suburban part of Chicago, like very suburban. And while Trump doesn't do well here, Republicans down ballot tend to do okay here. Tend to do, a couple points better than the Orange Man. And they somehow made this a bit more Republican friendly by like a point or so. So you start doing some math here, it's like, okay, if Illinois 6, let's say, flips, all right? Then you got Illinois 17th, which I do think eventually in the future will be a Republican-leaning seat. You got Illinois 14th. If Republicans run the correct candidate, they could potentially win it. They could seriously win these type of seats. These are suburban seats that 10 years ago, Republicans would have won by like 12, 15 points. You just start doing some math here, it's like, okay, maybe it's a net gain of 1. Long term. But that's not really a big gain. Especially when the map looks like this. I mean, short term, sure, it may, look bad. Like right now it looks awful. But after 2022, I think people calm down a little bit about Illinois 14th, Illinois 6th, and Illinois 17th. I do think 2 to 3 will vote towards the Republicans. Illinois 13th, I don't know. I don't know if Illinois 13th will. Could be closer, but it's one of those districts where it is trending a bit Democrat. And they just made it as dummy-mandered as possible, or gerrymandered as possible. So I think overall, states like this is what people got freaked out about. But again, we start doing some basic math. It's not all that bad. Then you go to the gerrymandered of old gerrymandered, I should say dummy-mandered, Nevada. Now, I have a question for the Democrats there. Why? Why did you do this? I mean, the old map, sure, maybe Las Vegas could be a bit more, centered itself. But the map, actually, I agree with it. It was a clean map. It was, relatively speaking, a fair map. They really think they're going to win Nevada's second in the future. They truly think Nevada's second, which, by the way, actually trended like 1 or 2 points towards the right in 2020, is going to somehow trend Democrat? And also, they made Nevada's fourth, okay? Which really used to be Nevada's first. From a D plus 22 seat to D plus 5. Like, sure, all these seats are a bit more Democrat, but all of them are substantially trending Republican. Like, this garbage at all, it's not a net gain in Nevada. These are at least 2 seats that are going to go Republican in the future. Like, very Republican. I'm talking about Nevada's first and third. I don't know about Nevada's fourth. But again, that's really a net gain of 1 or 2 in the future. Again, this is a noticeable trend in a lot of these states. Now, New Mexico, it may get a bit more corny. I do think New Mexico's second will stay Republican. Not as much as it used to, by the way. But, still R plus 3, R plus 4. The D plus 4 thing, I think when you include all the energy stuff, people are going to realize, okay, our main industry in this part of New Mexico, especially southern New Mexico, is oil, energy, fossil fuels, all that stuff. The fact that Biden has destroyed southern New Mexico in particular, yeah, I think this D plus 4 is be like an R plus 3 or 4. Now, you get New Mexico's third also, which it's going to stay Democrat, I think. But I do think in a 2022 type election year, it could maybe flip, like maybe by a point or 2 towards Republicans, which, by the way, do some math. That's a net gain of 1, not, net gain of, 2 competitive seats. Like, not really. So this is why I'm saying that the redistricting actually has been fairly solid for the Republicans when you account for long-term trends. Short-term, they may hurt a little bit, but then you got the behemoth that is Florida. If Governor DeSantis' map, passes, right, which I think it actually will, the state legislative is finally getting closer and closer to his map. Yeah, a lot of these net gains and quotations by the Democrats of, the Democrats gained 12 seats would be immediately eviscerated, gone, bamboozled, gone, just gone. I mean, that's 4 net gain seats according to 530, which is more like 6 or 7 in some instances. So you start doing that, it's like, okay, Republicans may have only lost, maybe 1 or 2 seats. Democrats maybe gained like 2 or 3. That's not that big of a swing. Not that big of, it should be. You start doing some math in other states, Do you really think, in places like Virginia 7th, do you really think it's going to continuously trend like 20 points Democrat like it did in 2020? I don't think so. I really don't think so. I mean, this is a district that is somewhat suburban, but at the same time somewhat rural. And it's one of those seats that I think Republicans, if they run a good candidate, like a Youngkin-style candidate, they can win. So again, redistricting overall has not been perfect for Republicans. Let's get that out of the way. Again, what happened in like California and New York is a shitstorm. But overall, you start doing some math. You look at long-term trends. You look how these states have voted in the past. You start noticing, okay, Republicans actually, look halfway decent for 2022 redistricting. Again, they're still going to lose like 2 or 3 seats when all said is done. But Democrats are not going to gain 12. That's just inflated. Especially a lot of these districts are already Democrat trending. So that's why I'm saying that number's a bit, misleading. And we just saw earlier, Nevada. I mean, that's potentially 3 to 4 Republican seats in Nevada alone. Long term, by the way. So that's what I'm saying, folks. Calm down about redistricting. The Republicans are not winning the House. They're still winning the House. It's just a matter of how much. And all said is done, it's going to be a wash redistricting. No one really gains much. At the same time, nobody really loses much. Outside of, like, the death of the competitive seats. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this, general-ish overview of how redistricting has went, calming some, black pills down about Democrats gaining the House and all that stuff. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit the little bell, and yes, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Godspeed to all of you.